Butcher's Crossing is often marketed as a Western, but many critics and readers now see it as something more unsettling, a novel that uses the Western frontier to dismantle some of the central myths of the American West. Hello, welcome to my channel. Another bibliophile reads. My name is Greg, and every June here on BookTube there is an event called June on the Range, and June on the Range is an event that encourages people to read Westerns. Well, the Western was once a very popular genre that has fallen a little bit on the wayside, but I do like reading Westerns. And this year I reread one of my favorite books, which is often considered a Western, and that is Butcher's Crossing by John Williams. This novel was originally published in 1960. But this is not your traditional Western. This is the West as a different force, not a place of opportunity. Traditional Westerns often present the frontier as a place where character is revealed and rewarded. In Butcher's Crossing, the wilderness reveals character, but it does not reward it. There are no gunslinging anti-heroes or white-hatted cowboys in Williams' West. Let me read just a little bit from the introduction here. The Western, no matter the medium, satisfied something in the American spirit. And sure, it was hokum, snake oil, but we are still slathering it on ourselves today. The Western is a major American genre, one that goes to the heart of our famous patriotism. This Western, as I said, is a little bit different from other Westerns. But Butcher's Crossing is a literary Western. Here, many readers notice similarities to literary naturalism and writers like Stephen Crane and Jack London. The characters believe they are exercising freedom and will, but they're continually overwhelmed by forces larger than themselves: weather, geography, economics, and obsessions. The novel suggests nature is not waiting to fulfill human dreams. Experience does not automatically produce wisdom. Individualism easily becomes obsession. Economic ambition often destroys what it values. The frontier is not a place of redemption, but of disillusionment. Now, on the surface, Butcher's Crossing is the story of Will Andrews. He is a young man studying in Harvard. It is 1870. Will Andrews becomes obsessed with the writings of Emerson and gets a romanticized vision of the West. So he quits Harvard and heads out to Kansas to find himself, to find wilderness. And he wants to go on a buffalo hunt. He meets up with a hide merchant named McDonald, and McDonald says, "You don't want to go on a buffalo hunt. You want to help me sell buffalo hides. That's the sort of thing a young man from Harvard should be doing." But Andrews, he wants to go on a buffalo hunt. And he meets up with Miller, an experienced buffalo hunter. And Miller confesses something. Around 10 years ago, Miller had discovered a valley in the Colorado mountains, secluded from everything. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of buffalo just waiting for the taking, a fortune to be made. So Miller convinces Andrews, or Andrews convinces Miller. It's not really sure which one, but they are going to go on a buffalo hunt. And with Miller is his sidekick, Charlie Hoge, and they hire a buffalo skinner named Schneider. And they head out to the Colorado mountains to hunt buffalo. That is the essence of the story, and that is all of the plot that I will give. Now, as I said, there are four main characters, and each represent a different response to the frontier: idealism, obsession, materialism, and maybe acceptance. Will Andrews is a critique of the self-made man myth. He goes west, searching for authenticity, almost as a pilgrim. He believes somewhere beyond civilization there is a truer reality. What he discovers is that human beings carry their illusions with them. Wilderness changes the setting, but it does not fundamentally change human nature. He is a young man on a quest, but he is unable to learn or even understand the wilderness. Its essence escapes him. He can see it, be stuck in it, but he is like a student in a Harvard lecture that doesn't comprehend what the professor is saying. In many ways, Will Andrews' story is the anti-Bildungsroman roman. It's supposedly a story of growth. But does Will actually grow at the end? Miller is a study in obsession. The buffalo hunter, Miller, is one of the most fascinating figures in this book. He initially appears competent, stoic, almost heroic, maybe even a little bit of the traditional Western hero. But gradually he becomes something closer to a tragic figure. The famous Buffalo Valley is central here. Once Miller discovers the enormous herd of buffalo, hunting ceases to be practical. It becomes compulsive. He keeps killing long after any rational economic goal has been achieved. One interpretation is that Miller represents the darker side of the frontier ideal. The drive for mastery transforms into monomania. In many ways, he is like Captain Ahab from Moby Dick. Both men are consumed by a vision that overrides practical reality. Schneider is the material man. John Williams deliberately sets up situations where Schneider often sees reality more clearly than the supposedly more admirable characters around him. Yet he receives almost none of the dignity that literature usually grants the truth teller. Consider how Schneider's judgments often prove correct. He is skeptical about the buffalo hunt from the start. He understands the economic realities better than Andrews and Miller. He recognizes Miller's behavior as becoming irrational long before anyone else will admit it. He knows that the enormous buffalo harvest is worthless if it cannot be transported and sold. He sees the expedition as becoming trapped by circumstances and obsession. In practical terms, Schneider is usually the smartest man in the group of four. Yet readers often dislike him on first reading because he appears greedy, petty, cowardly, or cynical. Perhaps the irony is that Williams seems to be asking whether readers dislike Schneider precisely because he refuses romantic illusions. Charlie Hoge is a man of acceptance, acceptance of what fate gives him. Charlie is, in some ways, the hardest character in Butcher's Crossing to pin down. He initially seems like a stock Western sidekick, the rough, half-comic frontiersman with missing teeth, a missing hand, and limited education. He does not appear to need the wilderness to validate him. He does not seek transcendence. He does not dream of vast wealth. He does not try to dominate nature. He has his Bible, and he reads from his Bible and finds comfort in that. He accepts circumstances as they come. That does not make him passive. He works hard, survives hardship, and demonstrates remarkable competence in some circumstances. This puts him in sharp contrast to Miller. Miller cannot accept limits. When he finds the buffalo herd, he tries to impose his will indefinitely. Hoge understands limits instinctively. He is the least romantic character. Ironically, Hoge may be even less romantic than Schneider. Schneider still dreams of financial success. Hoge doesn't seem to dream of much at all. He knows what the frontier is. He knows what hunting is. He knows what winter is. He really knows what winter is. Nothing needs to be transformed into a grand idea. One of the recurring themes in the novel is the danger of abstraction, turning buffalo into prophet, nature into revelation, hunting into destiny. Hoge largely avoids those traps. The buffalo are buffalo. Work is work. Cold is cold. But does he lose contact with reality in the end? Does he become the holy fool, or just an ordinary fool, or just a man who accepts his fate, however poor that may be? Criticism of capitalism is a hidden force behind the novel. Although the novel spends much of its time in the wilderness, economics drive everything. The buffalo are reduced to hides. The hunters dream of wealth. The town of Butcher's Crossing itself exists because of speculation and commerce. One way to read the novel is the story about commodification. The vast buffalo herd appears almost limitless, yet the men immediately translate abundance into profit. The result is devastation because the buffalo herd is not limitless. The minor characters of MacDonald, the hide merchant, and Francine, the prostitute, show the pragmatic downside of capitalism. John Williams never turns the novel into a political tract, but he repeatedly reminds the reader that market logic reaches even to the most remote wilderness. In the end, John Williams gives the reader a Western, or a story of the American West, with much of its mythology stripped away. It's a good contrast to the traditional Westerns of Louis L'Amour or the Hollywood films. I think this is one of America's greatest novels. It shows us its people, what we can do, and what kind of country we've made of the wilderness. I think this is an absolutely fantastic novel. Butcher's Crossing is a Western about the collapse of Romanticism, whether that Romanticism concerns nature, individualism, adventure, or just the American West itself. I think a lot of people would enjoy reading this novel. I do have to say that the scenes of the buffalo hunt contain graphic violence to animals, and that may disturb people greatly. Nonetheless, I can highly recommend Butcher's Crossing. Thank you for watching, and keep on reading.